Okay. Since I am not having any question, so again we can start another classification. So the classification we have discussed depending on the type of the signal the system accept. Next classification. This classification or categorization of the system is time variant and time invariant system. So what is that? Try to understand this. If a signal is applied, that signal may be continuous time, may be discrete time. No bar is there. So if any signal is applied to a system, so system will produce some response. So suppose for a system you have applied a signal and you are getting some response. So after some time, if you apply the same signal and if you get the same response, then that kind of system is called time invariant system. Is it clear? No.
Sir, আরেকবার repeat করবেন?
Suppose a system is there, okay? You have applied now a sinusoidal signal, okay? For this instant of time you have applied, and at the output you are getting cosine wave, okay? So tomorrow, suppose again you are applying for the same system, you are applying sinusoidal signal and you are getting the same cosinusoidal signal. Only thing is that since you have applied at two different instances of time, today you have applied sinusoidal and you are getting the cosinusoidal signal. Tomorrow, means after 24 hours, again you are applying sinusoidal signal and you are getting the same cosinusoidal signal, meaning is that response you are getting after 24 hours. So you are getting the same response, only thing is that since signal is applied with a time interval of 24 hours, response is also delayed by 24 hours. Otherwise, there is no changes in the response. So that kind of system is called time invariant. Meaning is that though you are applied the same signal at different instants of time, so kind of response you are getting the same. Only thing is that since input is applied at delayed time, so output is also delayed by same amount of time. So in that case, that kind of system is called time invariant system. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So what is the time variant system? Suppose you have applied now sinusoidal signal and you are getting cosinusoidal signal. After 2 hours, you have applied for the same system sinusoidal signal, but you are not getting exactly cosinusoidal, rather some different response. Meaning is that system's behavior is changing with respect to time. Meaning is that the system you have designed with some circuit element, behavior of the circuit element is going to change as a function of time. So in that case, that kind of system is basically called time variant system. And now one thing is very clear, that it is very difficult to deal with the time variant system, isn't it? If the system is time variant, you cannot predict what will be the response for a particular input. But the system is time invariant, then we can predict or we can do the analysis, isn't it? But for time variant system, it's very difficult because you don't know what kind of response the system will do, because its behavior or its response is changing as a function of time. Isn't it? Thing is clear? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Any confusion? Time variant, time invariant? So obviously, we the engineers always try to design a time invariant system because it is very difficult to deal with the time variant system, isn't it? Though sometimes if we have to deal with the random signal, then in that case actually probability will come into the picture for the time variant system, where we have to deal with the random signals, because random signals means we do not know what behavior it will show at the next instant of time, isn't it? So obviously we shall always try to design a system that will be time invariant. That is our goal, but sometimes some crucial case we have to go for time variant system. Okay, any question regarding this classification? No? Or you have any question, then you can ask. Okay, then we can start another classification, and this classification is very easy, and probably all of you know that: linear and non-linear system. Anyone can tell? This concept is very easy. Anyone? Am I audible? Hello?
Sir,
Yes.
the linear system always passes through the origin from the straight line, means its graph.
Yes, you can say that its response, if we draw the input-output characteristics, it will pass through origin. Or you can say that the system whose response with the what? Here. Isn't it?
So,
The system is the superposition, laws of Ohm's law as well as superposition theory. Both the meaning, what is the meaning of that? Suppose you have applied x1t signal and you are getting the response y1t. You have applied another signal x2t and now you are getting x2t. So instead of applying x1 and x2t, if we apply both simultaneously, that is x1t plus x2t, then if you get the response, that is y1t plus y2t, then that kind of system is basically called linear system. But in case of non-linear system, that superposition theorem will not be obeyed by the system. So you will find that in practical cases, you will find very few linear system, maximum non-linear system, because whatever system you already have learned, like amplifier, rectifier, or whatever, inverter, actually that all these systems are non-linear systems, because input-output relationship, that is not exactly linear, and you will also find some linear system, or you can use that circuit to the linear region to operate your system in the linear region, or to make your system linear. So you will find, practically you will find both type of the system, linear and non-linear. And obviously people always try to design linear system if suppose there is on-off change. But for linear, if you want to design any amplifier, then with that kind of linearity you cannot design. You have to choose the non-linear portion. So depending on the situation, actually you can design linear as well as non-linear system. Clear? And obviously students or engineers in maximum cases try to design linear system, but in few cases, depending on the application, you have to go for that non-linear system. Okay, I think this classification is very easy and you have already learned. So next one, so let us move to the next categorization, that is a lumped and distributed system. Have you heard the term lumped?
yes, sir.
So what is the meaning of that lumped?
Sir, when the elements are in the discrete form, like in a circuit where is R, L, and C, all are separated, that is called lumped elements. And a distributed element means an element which contains all the things like resistor, inductor, capacitor. That is called distributed element. Resistor, inductor, capacitor, and all the elements in the same substance, that is called a distributed element.
Anyone else want to tell something? Lumped and distributed? Anyone? See, that that is also a way of thinking, but men try to remember. Lumped means if you try to find out the wavelength of a signal which you are applied to a system, and that you will find certain wavelength, and if you compare that wavelength with the circuit element, if the circuit element's lengths are negligible compared to the wavelength, then that kind of system or circuit is called lumped. Is it clear? No.
Yes, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
Let us take one example, then that will confusion will be cleared. Suppose we are applying a signal whose frequency is 50 Hertz. Clear? We have designed a system which will be operated in 50 Hertz signal. That is a normal power supply we are getting in our home. That will be applied. So if signal frequency is 50 Hertz, so can you calculate what will be the wavelength?
Yes, sir.
How to calculate? C by F.
CY.
C is the velocity of the light in free space.
Yes, sir.
So you calculate, and what will be the range of the wavelength? Lambda. 3 into 10 to the power 8 divided by 50 Hertz.
50.
Yes. So what will be that? In which range you will? Not exact calculate. That will be in the centimeter, meter, or kilometer range. Three into 10 to the power
Meter.
8 meter divided by 50. So ultimately, what will be the length? Length will be in the meter range or kilometer range or centimeter range.
Meter range.
Only meter.
Meter per second.
What will be the length? Exact. If you calculate,
6 into 10 to the power 3.
so that will be 3 into 10 to the power 8 by 50.
6,000 kilometers, sir.
6,000 kilometers. So it is in the range of kilometer, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you think about that discrete circuit element like resistor, capacitor, inductor. So what will be the length of that circuit component? Within the centimeter range. Have you seen
Yes,
any
sir.
resistance in the lab? 1
Yes, sir.
centimeter, 2 centimeter like that. So if you compare that length of the element with the wavelength, so that length of the element is negligible. Is it or not?
Yes, sir.
With 6,000, if you compare 6,000 kilometers, now it is in the length of the one resistance is centimeter, 1 or 2 centimeter range. So negligible. So if your system is designed with the component whose length are negligible in comparison with the wavelength of the system, then that kind of system is called lumped system. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So whatever circuit you are designing in the lab, like using operational amplifier, or suppose you have designed adder, subtractor, integrator, whatever may be, that is basically lumped network or lumped system rather. So what is distributed system? So definition will be if the length of the system or length of the system element is not negligible, Now see, if we take the example of transmission line, electrical transmission line. So it is basically a cable, copper cable. In some cases copper cable, some cases you will find that aluminium cable, isn't it? Transmission line. This is wire, so you will find some resistance, and since two parallel wires are there you will find some capacitive effect. Similarly, you will find some inductive effect. But if that capacitor, inductor and resistance you cannot separate, isn't it? It is with the length of kilometers. The transmission line, it is the electrical power transmission from one district to another district or one state to another state. So huge length. It is also in the length of kilometer. So if you calculate the wavelength of the system and the circuit elements length, so you cannot ignore that. That is in comparison. So that kind of system is basically called distributed. And in that kind of system, you cannot separate the different network component. Though it is a plain cable, but you will find some resistive effect, capacitive effect and inductive effect, but you cannot separate them. Like whatever circuit you are designing in the laboratory, you are using the discrete component and you can easily separate because it is visible within the centimeter range. So this portion of the network is showing the resistance, this portion of the network is showing the capacitor. But in case of distributed network or distributed system, basically distributed, not network, distributed system, you cannot separate them, and the length of the element is much bigger, or length of the element is not negligible in compared to the wavelength of the system. Clear? So example of the distributed system is that electrical transmission line, because resistance is there but you cannot separate it, and resistance is whole wire is showing your resistance. So the length of that resistive component is that is also in available in the kilometer range, and your wavelength is also in the kilometer range. So you cannot neglect that. But if you calculate that wavelength, it is in the kilometer range. But if you calculate the length for the lump network or discrete circuit component resistance, that will be in the 1 or 2 centimeters. So centimeter is negligible compared to the 1000 kilometer. So that classification is clear to all of you? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Or do you have any confusion? No? Okay. So then let us move to another classification, that is static and dynamic system. Static system and dynamic system. So what is that concept? Static system means if system's response depend only on the present input conditions. So response of the system depends whatever you are applying at the present instant of time. Suppose you have applied now few inputs, so output is a function of the present inputs only. That kind of system is basically called static and dynamic system. Dynamic system, basically this dynamic kind of system, response of the system depends on present input condition as well as the previous output. Meaning is that the system that will memorize something, or the system that will memorize, meaning is that the system that requires memory element. Why memory element? That memory element will be required to memorize the previous output. So the system whose response is a function of not only the present input but also the previous output. That kind of system is called dynamic system, or you can say that this is the system with memory. But static system is called basically memory-less system. So the system which has some effect of earlier output. So its response depends on present input condition and also on the previous output condition. That kind of system. That is the dynamic system. Thing is clear now? So let us give some example, then that will be clear. Very easy concept. Suppose a system is mathematically defined as y of t equal to 3x square t, where xt is the input, yt is the output. So now tell me, what kind of system this is, static or dynamic? Yt equal to 3 into x square t. This is the system, mathematically it is defined. So what kind of system, static or dynamic?
Static system.
Static. Why static? Because output purely depends on xt and xt is present input. But suppose a system is defined as yt equal to x square t plus yt minus 2.
Beta dynamic was gone by.
This is because it response depends on input xt, that is related to x in square x square t plus yt minus 1. What is yt minus 1? Yt is the output. T minus 1 means this is the output of the previous instances, isn't it? Some past output. So now the response is a function of present input as well as past output. So this system is dynamic system. So for dynamic system, basically the system has to remember the term that is recursive term, that is yn minus yt minus 1. That past output it has to memorize, it has to store, and for that kind of system always require some memory devices. Clear? Okay, next move to another classification. So we have discussed continuous time, discrete time system, time variant, time invariant, linear, non-linear, lump, distributed, static, dynamic. Now, one more categorization, that is active and passive system. I think all of you know the active circuit element and concept of active circuit element and passive circuit element. Can anyone tell me? Active element and passive element? Concept of
passive element are those which absorbs energy, and the active
Yes.
element always delivers energy.
Yes, active elements are those which can produce or deliver energy, and passive is reverse just. It cannot produce energy, rather it dissipates energy. So can you give any example of active element?
Sir, generator বা যে কোনো voltage
Generator, any
Inductor,
voltage or any
capacitor.
current source. Capacitor is
Inductor.
not there. No. Capacitor,
Inductor?
these are the passive element. Actually, this will be any generator or any ideal voltage source or ideal current source. That will give the energy to the system, and ideally that will not dissipate. So in ideal sense you will not find any active element, but practically voltage source, current source, that are considered as active element, though in true sense voltage source or current source that is providing energy as well as it is also dissipating some energy. Only ideal voltage source or ideal current source that are theoretically active element, but practically we consider all the sources as active elements, all the energy sources.
Sir,
Passive?
charge capacitors are not active elements.
Now, if you only tell the capacitor, though capacitor can store charge, but capacitor can store charge as well as capacitor will dissipate energy. But if you use that capacitor to design your power supply, in that sense, total power supply will be that active element. But only if you tell that capacitor, then capacitor is not active element. Because though capacitor is storing charge, but if you store some kind of some amount of charge to the capacitor, after some time you will see that charge will be decayed or energy will be dissipated, and after a long time you will find that no energy is stored.
Okay, sir.
So only capacitor is not active element. Capacitor with voltage source or capacitor with some other circuit element which are used to design that source. So not capacitor, that energy source, either current source or voltage source, that may be termed as active element. But only discrete capacitor or resistance or inductor, that is passive element, because that is going to dissipate energy. Clear? So the system which is designed with only the passive element, that system is called passive system. But if the system consists of any active element, it may happen that only active element, it is active system. It may happen that some passive element with some active element, that is also termed as active system. Clear? So whenever you will find any energy source to your system, so that system will be active. If your system do not have any energy source, only some element or system element that is going to dissipate energy, that kind of system is called passive system. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So practically, if we design a passive system, so that system will not work unless and until we will energize the system. When we will energize the system, that passive system will become active system, isn't it? For practical system,
Yes, sir.
all the system will be active ultimately. But passive system, yes, you can design with only the passive element, and that may be used for doing the analysis. But practical cases, if you do not give any energy to that system, so that is meaningless system actually. So ultimately you will find all working system that will be active system. Clear? Yeah. Any question regarding this classification? Any confusion? Okay. So let us move to the another categorization. And this categorization will be used for whole this electronics and communication classes, and that concept is very useful, though concept is very easy to understand. So let us try to understand that categorization, that is basically called causal and non-causal system. Have you heard the term causal? Have you heard the term causal? C-A-U-S-A-L, causal. C-A-U-S-A-L, causal, non-causal, non plus causal. And one more concept I am trying to introduce here, that is anti-causal. Okay, so just try to hear first the concept, very simple. Try to remember. If a system's response means output of a system is a function of present input and the past input or output, whatever may be, then that system is called causal system. Clear? Is it clear? So now you can tell me that the definition is like that dynamic system, isn't it? Again try. try to listen first. If a system response is a function of present input, past input, or past output, if it is a function of all threes, any one, any two, means if a system's output is a function of only the present input, then also it is causal. If system's output is a function of present input and previous input, then also it is causal. If it is a function of present input, previous input and previous output, then also it is a causal. Clear? Now non-causal function. So any confusion regarding this causal system?
No, sir.
So now try to understand non-causal system. If a system response depends on any previous input, any future input. Now you can ask, how can we say that this is future input? And that classification is basically hypothetical. That kind of system, practically there is no existence. This is conceptual system, that is non-causal. Means if a system's response depend on future value of the input, if any future dependency, then that kind of system is called non-causal system. Meaning is that suppose system's response depend on present input as well as future input, then that will be termed as non-causal. Present input, past input and future input, then that will be termed as non-causal. Or any combination. If you find any dependency of future input, then only that system will be termed as non-causal system. Yeah. So whatever system you will design later on, all system will be basically causal. But this is the conceptual system, that is non-causal. Suppose I am giving one example. Suppose one thing is given, that is, suppose a system is defined as yt equal to 3 into xt plus 5 into xt plus 5. What kind of system this is? Again I am repeating. A system is defined as yt equal to 3 into xt plus 4 xt plus 3. What kind of system?
It's a non-causal.
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 Because its response depends on present input as well as future input. What is future input? That is xt plus 3. This is not the present. Rather, it is in the future instance of time, isn't it? So that kind of system is called non-causal system. So though this is the hypothetical system, this is not practical system. Now, though the classification is causal and non-causal, so one more term you will listen sometime, that is anti-causal. Anti-causal. So causal means a system functions or system response depends on only the present input, past input or past output. Or you can say that if the system response don't have any dependency on the future input, then that kind of system is basically called causal. Now anti-causal is if a system response purely depends on future input condition, then that kind of system is called anti-causal system. Let us take one example. Suppose yt equal to 5xt plus 5. So here the system is defined as yt equal to 3 yt plus 5. So its response purely depends on future input value. So that kind of system is basically called anti-causal. Clear? So all anti-causal systems are non-causal, but all non-causals are not anti-causal. Clear? Probably you have confusion. So if you have any confusion, you can ask. Hello? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
You have any confusion regarding this concept, causal, non-causal and anti-causal?
Sir, can you repeat the last line?
That is anti-causal.
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
So anti-causal, you see that if a system's response depends purely on future input value, then that kind of system is called anti-causal. But non-causal, if there is any dependency on future input, meaning is that non-causal system may be a function of future input condition, present input condition, or past input condition, or past output, or any combination of the two. But anti-causal means there will be no dependency, only dependency is future input value. Suppose yt equal to xt plus 6. So this is pure anti-causal. Yes, that may be also termed as non-causal. But all non-causal, suppose I am giving you the example, suppose yt equal to 3xt plus 2yt plus 5. So this is non-causal, but it is not anti-causal. Isn't it? Thing is clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Then we can move to another classification, that is stable and unstable system. Do you have any idea about stability of the system? How we can do the categorization of stable and unstable system? Any idea? Okay. Let me first define very easy concept. Try to understand this concept. Don't try to memorize this one. Only the understanding is sufficient. Okay. So stability. Stable means you will find different kind of different definition to prove whether a system is stable or unstable. So one very popular classification, that is basically called BIBO stability. What is BIBO? B-I-B-O. B means bounded, I means input, B means again bounded, O means output. So BIBO means bounded input, bounded output. So what is the concept? If we apply a bounded signal as input to the system, and if we get the bounded output or bounded response of the system, then that kind of system is basically called BIBO stable system. Thing is clear? No.
Sir, একবার repeat করবেন?
If we apply some input to a system which is bounded, so probably you have the confusion about the term bounded, isn't it? Bounded means if the input signal which is defined for a particular time instant, and bounded means the signal duration is not of infinite duration, rather signal is defined for finite duration of the time. Clear? So if you apply some finite duration time signal to the input of a system, and if you get the output of that system or response of the system that is also of finite duration, then that kind of system is called Bibo stable system. But sometimes you may find that though you are applying a bounded input to a system, but you are getting unbounded signal at the output. Meaning is that though you have applied a particular signal which is applied for a particular time instance, but the response you are getting that is unbounded, means you are getting the response forever. Means that response signal, the output signal is defined for infinite duration of time. So that infinite duration of time signal is basically called unbounded signal. So after applying bounded signal, if you get unbounded signal at the output, then that system is called unstable. So to test the stability of the system, you have to apply a bounded, but because you may apply unbounded signal and you may get unbounded output, then you cannot test whether the system is stable or unstable. But if you apply bounded signal and if you again get bounded output, then the system will be Bibo stable system. But after applying the system, bounded input to the system, if though you have applied bounded input, but you are getting the response that is unbounded, then that kind of system is called Bibo unstable system. Bounded input means Bibo unstable. Though you have applied bounded, but you are getting response unbounded. Clear? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So testing is very easy. Suppose our system is defined like this: yt equal to x square t. Okay. Now xt will be some signal, isn't it? So if you apply a xt which is bounded means which is defined for particular or which is defined for finite duration of time. And what you are getting in this case response, that is square of that term, isn't it? So output is x square t. Now to test this bounded stability, whatever response you are getting, that is yt, if you take the integration of that yt or summation of the yt for the signal which is defined for the response, and if you get a finite value, then that kind of system is basically called stable system, isn't it? If the response is bounded, and if you bounded means it is defined for a finite duration time instant, and if you take the summation of that or integration of that, summation means it is that is summation in discrete time instant, and integration means continuous time duration, that is also summation. And if you find the finite value of that summation, then that system is stable, otherwise system will be unstable. And later on we shall take few examples. This then I think if there is any confusion, little bit confusion, that will be clear. And very easy classification, stable and unstable. And just one thing, whenever we shall try to design a system, that what kind of system we want to design, stable or unstable? What kind of system we prefer to design, stable or unstable?
Stable, sir.
Obviously stable, because unstable means though you have applied for limited time duration signal, but you are getting the response for unlimited time duration. So you cannot predict what will be the ultimate response, what will be the ultimate output, because our output is changing for infinite duration of time. So you will be in the confusion. So this is very important test. Sometimes you may design a good system, but ultimately your system will fail if the system is unstable. So sometimes you may have to compromise with some important parameter to get the stability of the system. If stability is not ensured, that system will not work practically. So whenever we shall design the system, by default we have to design stable system. And later on in control engineering, also you will learn that stability part, because in control engineering, whatever system you have designed, ultimately you have to ensure the stability of the system. Otherwise, that system will be meaningless, whatever good the system is. Clear? And you will learn a lot on stability of the system in control engineering later on. Okay, now I'm going to discuss one more classification. Though I'm going to discuss this 9 different categorization, you may find some other categorization, because that categorization, these are the very important categorization. That's why I have picked up only the 9 different categorization. So last one I am going to discuss, that is invertible and non-invertible system. Invertible and non-invertible. So this concept is also very easy. Now try to understand the concept. Suppose a system is there, you have applied some input and you are getting some output. Okay? For every system you will do that. Means a system is there, means if you apply some input, you expect some output. Now, if the system we can interchange, meaning is that suppose we have applied x1t as input and we are getting output y1t. Now, if we apply for the same system y1t as the input and y1t as input, and if we expect the output x1t, then that kind of system is basically called invertible. Meaning is that input and output terminal may be interchanged. Then that kind of system is called invertible system. Clear? So can you tell me whether all system is invertible, or you will find some system invertible, some non-invertible?
Sir, invertible system is somehow bilateral system or what?
Unilateral, bilateral is different, because lateral means you can give the input to a particular terminal and output will be that, but in the output terminal you apply input, so you will not expect any response. That is unilateral and bilateral. That is a little bit different. This is invert, means input and output can be exchanged. Whatever be the system, if you apply any input, you can expect output. Now, instead of applying the input to the input terminal, if you apply input to the output terminal, and you can use the input terminal as the output, so you may see some result, but that system, if you get some result, then that is basically called bilateral. But invertible is and non-invertible is different. You may get the result, but again you have to study the result or response, and then you have to comment whether your system, that is bilateral system, is invertible or non-invertible. Obviously, for unilateral system, you cannot do this classification invertible and non-invertible. You can do this classification only for bilateral system, but all bilateral systems are not invertible. Bilateral means at the output, if you apply anything, then at the input terminal also you can expect some responses. Now you have to study the response, then you have to comment on whether your system is invertible or non-invertible. Now what is that? How to test that? Means, suppose you have applied x1t to the input and you are getting y1t for a system. Now, if you apply now y1t at the output terminal, and if you expect x1t at the input terminal, then that system is called invertible system. Means input and output can be interchanged. So this means system, means input output interchange is possible if and only if input to output change for a particular system is 1-to-1 mapping. So what is that? So suppose, let us take one example, then that will be clear. Suppose a system is defined mathematically as y of t equal to mod of x squared, mod of xt. Simple system, suppose. So system is defined as yt equal to mod of xt. Okay. Now suppose xt is the input, xt is 0. So response will be, output will be, if we apply xt equal to 0, so yt will be 0, isn't it? If we apply xt equal to 2, output will be 2. If we apply xt equal to minus 2, output will be, what will be the output? 2. If we apply input equal to 2j, complex number, output will be
minus 2.
2. If we apply 2j mod of xt, that will be 2. If we apply minus 2j, output will be again 2. Now you see that for input xt equal to 2, minus 2, 2j or minus 2j, output is always same, isn't it? So is this 1-to-1 mapping or this is many-to-one mapping? For many different input, you see, inputs are xt equal to 2, minus 2, 2j, minus 2j. 4 different input, output is same. So if a system follows this many-to-one mapping, then that output cannot be used as input, because if you apply now yt equal to 2, then your system is in confusion whether input should be minus 2, 2, 2j or minus 2j. All are correct, isn't it? So this system, whatever we have defined, yt equal to mod of xt, what kind of system? This is invertible or non-invertible?
Non-invertible.
Non-invertible, because output and input terminals cannot be exchanged, because whenever you will change, since it is not 1-to-1 mapping, so you may not get the always correct reverse response. Though suppose it may happen that you have applied xt equal to 2 and you are getting yt equal to 2, but whenever you are applying at the using output terminal as input and you have applied yt equal to 2, you may find that at the input terminal, that is, you are getting suppose xt equal to minus 2j. Though initially you have applied 2 and you have got the yt equal to 2. Now you have applied yt equal to 2, you are getting minus 2j. So this input output set is not exactly matching. So this kind of system cannot be called that invertible system, that is non-invertible. Clear? Though this kind of system is called bilateral system, but this is not invertible system. This is non-invertible system. So it is very easy to test. Similarly, you can take some other example where you may find 1-to-1 mapping. Then that input-output terminal may be exchanged, and obviously the system must be bilateral. If system is unilateral, then whatever input you are applied to the output, and you are using output as input, but you will not find, you will find nothing at the, then that is not applied for this categorization. So this categorization is applied only for bilateral network, means where your signal may flow in both directions. Clear? Any confusion regarding this? Any confusion you can ask? So we have finished this categorization of the system. If you have any confusion up to this, you can ask. then we can move to very basic concept of this network theory. So we have got very basic idea about different types of systems and signal system, different categorization, etc., etc. And we have to study network theory. Okay. So before discuss there are two sub-elements in electrical circuit, that is active element and passive element. So active element means circuit element that can provide energy to the network or circuit, that is basically called active element, and passive that cannot deliver any energy, rather that elements will dissipate some amount of energy and that will be used to perform some kind of operation to the input signal. That is basically called passive element. And you will find there are three basic passive elements, that is resistor, capacitor, inductor, and active element. Active element is any energy sources. That energy source means voltage source, current source, or sometimes you may find that operational amplifier may be used as energy source, transistor may be used as energy source, field effect transistor may be used as energy source, that are also active element. If any transistor, any MOSFET, any operational amplifier is used as energy source, that are basically called active element. So these are the elements. Now first come to the concept of network. What is network? Network is any interconnections of network element. Any interconnections between any network component is basically called network. Now you may ask, then what is the difference between circuit and network? So circuits are also network, only difference is that in network it is not mandatory that there will be any energy sources, and it is not mandatory that interconnections must have some closed loop. But in circuit, it is also interconnections of network element, but here mandatory is there must be some energy source and there must be one closed path. So this is only the difference between network and circuit. Clear? So network means any combination. Suppose you have connected 3 resistors only. So that is the network. Electrical network, obviously. Network may be social network, whatever you have, any connections, that is network. But here network means by default electrical network. So, but if we connect suppose 2 capacitor and 3 inductor, 2 resistors in any combination, so that may be termed as network, but that is not termed as network unless and until it is having a closed path with some energy source. So there is slight difference between network and circuit. So circuit may be termed as, circuits are the network which has energy source and at least one closed path. Closed path means at least one path, means if we start from one element and if we move, then we will find some path where there will be no discontinuity and we can again come to that starting point. Then that kind of network is basically called circuit. Clear? Probably you have that concept. Again, I am going to discuss very basics, that's circuit and network. Next is branch. What is called branch? Branch and node. So come to the node first. Node means any interconnections of 2 or more network or circuit element. Meaning is that where two elements are joined, that joining point is called node of the network or node of the circuit. Suppose we are joining two resistors. So where two resistors are connected, that point is basically called node. It may be at least it's the joining point of two. It may be 3, 4, 5. Suppose two resistors, one capacitor is joined together. So that point where it is joined, that point is called node. And next term is branch. Branch is the network element which exists between two nodes. That is basically called branch. Suppose there are two nodes. Within that two nodes, you will find if two nodes are connected with some circuit element, then that circuit element is basically called branch. Any confusion regarding this node branch concept? Node branch? Hello? Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any confusion regarding this node branch? Okay. So now we have got the concept, that is circuit and network, node, branch. So this here in this, basically we are going to study the networks, not the circuits. Meaning is that sometimes we have to study without energy source. The combination of the different network element without energy source, that part is also included. That's why the subject name is network theory, not circuit theory. If circuit theory is the term, meaning is that we will discuss the network only when it is energized and it is having at least one closed path. Okay. So we have discussed about node, branch, circuit, networks. And I think no need to discuss the basic element, that is resistor, capacitor and inductor. I think you know that property. Let us just ask few questions. So for resistor, whether it is linear or non-linear element? Resistor?
Linear, sir.
Linear.
Because since we are going to discuss about that electrical network, so here if you see the voltage current relationship through the resistor, you will find that it is following the straight line equation passing through the origin. It is, and it follows the Ohm's law basically. So it obeys the linearity property. Now one more, capacitor.
Linear, sir.
Capacitor is linear or non-linear element?
Linear.
Non-linear.
So you have to see the voltage current relationship. What is the relationship in capacitor? IV relationship, current equal to C into dV dt. So is it linear?
Yes, sir.
Is it linear? Suppose 5 volt DC you have applied. What will be the current? 0. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Any DC applied, then 0. And you see that this is the derivative relation ddt of V. So this is not linear relationship, this is non-linear circuit element. So out of this 3 passive element, resistor is linear circuit element, but capacitor is non-linear circuit element. And I think all of you know what is the relationship. Capacitor C equal to Q by V, I think all of you know. And voltage current relationship I equal to C dV dt. Similarly, inductor. For inductor, Is it linear or non-linear element? It is also non-linear because here also relationship L di dt equal to V, isn't it? Voltage current relationship, isn't it? Or it is the I is the integration of dV dt, 1 by L integration I, isn't it? dV dt. So it is also non-linear relationship. It is having. Now here you see voltage current relationship is not obeying the Ohm's law for capacitor as well as inductor, isn't it? So basically capacitor, it is the charge storing element. It is going to store the charge, isn't it? Energy storing element. So can you tell me that whether capacitor has any resistive property or not? Whether it is having any resistive property or not, capacitor? Is it having any resistive property? So what is the resistive property? Resistive property is the property by which that element opposes the current flow. Opposes the current flow. So whether capacitor has any resistive property? Yes, capacitor.
Yes, sir.
And what is that capacitive impedance? Or capacitive is 1 by omega C. Already you have, and you see that capacitive impedance, or that is basically resistance shown by the capacitor, it is 1 by omega C, where C is the value of the capacitance, that is a constant term depending on what kind of capacitor you are using. Suppose a capacitor you are using, that the value is 0.01 microfarad. So 0.01, that value is C, and that is constant, isn't it? But another term is there, 1 by omega C. Omega. What is omega? What is omega?
Angular frequency.
Omega? Tell.
Angular frequency.
Yes, angular frequency. So what is that angular frequency? 2 pi into f, where f is the natural frequency, isn't it? Omega equal to 2 pi f. So basically capacitive impedance xc equal 1 by 2 pi fc, where 2 pi is the constant, c is the constant. So capacitive impedance is inversely proportional to the f. What is f? What is f? Linear frequency. Frequency of what? Frequency of applied signal. Now see, if any DC signal is applied, for DC signal linear frequency is how much? For DC signal? 0. So for DC signal, what will be the capacitive impedance?
Undefined.
Infinity.
Infinity. Meaning is that if you apply any DC signal to the capacitance, so capacitor, then capacitor will show you infinite impedance. Meaning is that for DC signals, the capacitor will work as open circuit. Open circuit means there will be no current flow. No current flow means basically it is showing infinite impedance. That's why current is equal to 0. Isn't it? Current is equal to V by R. So I will be, voltage is there, you have applied 5 volt, so V is the 5. Isn't it? But since you have applied 5 volt DC signal, so impedance shown by the capacitor is infinity. That's why current flow is 0. So capacitor for DC source, capacitor works as open circuit, isn't it? So that capacitor is having some dependency with the input signal's frequency. So impedance shown by the capacitor is not a fixed quantity, rather it is a frequency dependent quantity. If signal frequency increases, impedance shown by the capacitor will decrease, and signal's frequency decreases, then impedance or resistance shown by the capacitor will increase. If it is isn't it? The relationship Xc inversely proportional to the frequency of the input signal. So you have to remember that though out of this three passive element, resistor is there, and resistor that it is having some resistive property. Resistive property means the property by which it objects the flow of electron, that is objects the flow of current, and that resistor whatever means objection for current flow is you are getting, that is fixed, that is not changing with the applied signal's frequency. But for capacitor is having also resistive property, but that resistive property is frequency dependent. Meaning is that depends on the applied signal's frequency. How much resistance it will show, that depend on the signal what you are applying to the circuit element. Similarly for inductive impedance, can anyone tell me inductive omega L. So here omega means 2 pi f again. So inductive impedance is directly proportional to the input signal's frequency. Meaning is that if you increase the signal frequency, impedance shown by the inductor will increase. So for DC signal, inductor will work as inductor will show zero resistance. Meaning is that if you applied any DC signal to the inductor, current flow will be infinity. Meaning is that there will be no resistive path. So that will behave as short circuit. Clear? So I think all of you know the basic property of the passive element like resistance, capacitor, inductor. Now come to the active element. So active element, you have to be very careful that active element means any energy source, as well as in some circuit you may find that directly there is no voltage source, or you may find voltage source with the combination of transistor, but the transistor is used as energy source. In that sense, transistor, op-amp, field effect transistor, these are also called the active element, because it is not going to dissipate energy, rather it is also delivering energy to the network. Okay. Now, so active element means basically the energy sources, and you will find that for electrical network, you will find there are two types of energy sources. One is dependent source, another is independent source. Probably you have learned in basic electrical engineering, isn't it? Dependent source, independent source. Have you learned this? Hello? Again, I am just recapitulating this part. So dependent source means dependent and independent. So dependent source means if an energy source, it is having some dependency to some other energy, then that is basically called dependent source. Independent source means the energy source that don't have any dependency to other part of the circuit. The energy source is purely independent of other part of the circuit. Okay. Just take one example. Suppose a circuit is there and you have one dependent source, suppose, and dependent source meaning is that suppose that source may be voltage source, either voltage source or current source. Suppose voltage source is there and voltage source value is suppose changing value, and that value is defined as suppose 5 into Vx. Now you see 5 is constant, Vx. So Vx is the another voltage, and that Vx must be defined within the network. Suppose that Vx is the voltage across the capacitor. So value of 5 into Vx. So what is the voltage available across the capacitor? If voltage across the capacitor is 3 volt, then this voltage source is providing you 15 volt. Voltage across the capacitor is 2 volt, then this energy source is going to provide you 10 volt, like this. So if any dependency to other part of the circuit, then that kind of source is basically called dependent source. Now dependency depend on either voltage or current, isn't it? So if voltage source is there, so that dependent voltage source, you will find two types of dependent voltage source. One is voltage dependent voltage source. So source is dependent and source is voltage source, and it is having some dependency of what parameter? Voltage, and that dependent voltage must be defined within that network to some particular element. So if you see that, then if you see the value of this source, then you can always tell that what kind of dependency is there, whether it is voltage dependent voltage source or current dependent voltage source. Okay, so just see this different symbol, circuit symbol for different kind of. Is it visible? Is it visible? Hello? You see, this is independent source. This is independent DC source. This is independent AC source. Okay. AC source, voltage source. This is also independent current source. This is independent DC current source. This is independent AC current source. Now come to this. This is dependent source, and value is, you see, K1 into Vx. So from this value, it is clear that this is dependent source as well as dependency on what parameter? Voltage. So this is voltage dependent voltage source, or you can say voltage controlled voltage source. In some book you will find that voltage controlled voltage source. In some book you will find voltage dependent voltage source. Again you see that this is also voltage source.
We can't see the picture clearly, sir.
Now?
No, sir. I think the video quality is not that.
Now? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, let me draw in big. Okay. Now it is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So this is a dependent source. Okay. Since plus minus is given, so this is dependent source, and you can say this is dependent voltage source. Now say its value. Suppose K into Vx. So its voltage depends on K. K is a constant and Vx is the voltage, and that is defined some other part of the network. So this source is basically called voltage controlled voltage source, isn't it? Because its value is controlled by this Vx, and Vx is another voltage. That's why the name is voltage dependent voltage source or voltage controlled voltage source. Clear? It's clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Similar? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Now, Suppose instead of Vx, now here K into Ix. Then this is what kind of source? Voltage or current source? Now its value, this is voltage source and this dependency of the voltage on current, that is Ix. So
Current
this is
control.
current dependent voltage source, or you can say current controlled voltage. Clear? Now come to this part. Suppose again I am drawing dependent source. This arrow, meaning is that this is current source and now the value is K into Vx. So what kind of dependent source this is? Voltage dependent current source, because this is basically current source and value of the current depends on voltage from the other part of the network element. Similarly, instead of Vx, if I write here Ix, then that will be current dependent current source. Clear? Okay. Okay, today this much. So next day, hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let
Yes,
us stop today. Next day we shall start with few more concepts regarding means, charge, drift velocity, current density. Very basic concept, though already you have learned this, but again I have to discuss this part, and then we shall start with the basic network theorems. Though you have already learned the theorem, KVL, KCL, superposition theorem, but again I have to discuss this part a little bit. After that, we shall go to the other part. And okay, before going to conclude this, one more very important classification for network theorem. So we have got the concept about circuit and network, difference between circuit and network. One more thing is you have to remember, that is in network theorem or network theory or circuit theory, you will find that two terms, analysis and synthesis. Network analysis as well as network synthesis. Do you have the concept? What is synthesis and what is network analysis and what is synthesis? Do you know the concept? Synthesis and analysis? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So, do you know that concept and synthesis and analysis?
No, sir.
No. So, very easy concept. Try to understand that. Network. So, that network, we can always, whatever be the network or circuit, whatever may be, we always think that is a system, isn't it? And system means, so network is a system, circuit is a system, or whatever you are designing, everything is system. So in system means there will be input terminal and output terminal, isn't it? And for system, input, and input has some other term also, you will find some book. Input is basically called stimulus. Clear? One more term, input. Sometimes in some book you will find that input called as stimulus, and output, what we are telling, that output is termed as response. So for any system you will find some stimulus and some responses, or you can find some input and some output. In few books you may find this term, stimulus and response, and some book you may find input and output. Okay. Now, if a system is given, input is also given, only your task is to find out what will be the response of the system. That part of the network theory is called network analysis. Clear? So analysis part, system is given, means the network is given, input is given. Only thing is that you have to calculate the response, or you have to predict the response. find out the response if your network and the stimulus are clear. So that part of network theorem called network analysis. So whatever network theorem we have studied, like superposition or KVL, KCL, or Millman theorem, whatever may be. So this part is basically coming to this part, analysis of this. What you have done? Some circuits or networks are given, some inputs are given. Only thing is that you have to either calculate some voltage or current or power, whatever, isn't it? That is basically the response of the system. So circuits or networks are networks or system, whatever may be, is given, and stimulus are also given. Only your task, if your task is to find out the response, then that part of the network theory or circuit theory is called analysis. Clear? Now synthesis. Synthesis. Okay. Let me again repeat. Suppose network is given. Now it is audible. Network is given. Stimulus are given. You have to predict the response, or you have to calculate the response. So that part of the network theory is called analysis. Now come to the concept of synthesis. For synthesis, stimulus are given, meaning is that inputs are given, response are given. You have to design the network. That part is called synthesis. So synthesis, basically, you have to design the network. For that, what will be the response for what input that is given? Meaning is that we want to achieve this response for this particular input. This will be provided to you. These specifications will be given to you. Now your task is to achieve that response from the given stimulus. And for that you have to design it. Then that, so your task is to design the system, design the network, design the circuit. That part is called synthesis. Clear? So analysis, design part is not our task. Already circuit or network or system is designed. Only you have to apply certain input and you have to calculate the response. This part is analysis. Synthesis part, some input output combinations will be given. If this is the input, this should be the output. This is the input, this should be the output. Now your task is to design your system. That is the synthesis. Clear? Or any confusion? Concept is clear to all of you? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Then today stop here. So next day we shall again continue. Okay. And for this, you try to collect the book of Valkenburg, and or you may collect the book of that network theorem by D. Roy Choudhury. That one is a very good book, and for GATE examination, basically questions are set from that book, D. Roy Choudhury's book. This is very standard book. Okay. Okay. Then thank you, all of you. Next day again we shall meet, and hope you will stay healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
सर
sir.
बुक का नाम क्या बोल रहे हैं?
Network theorem by D. Roy Choudhury. If you want to purchase, then purchase that book.
ओके सर.
Okay, because that is standard book for GATE examination. Circuit theory for GATE. Okay.
ओके सर.
Okay. So